Hey everyone, it's Haley, and today I'm going to be doing the second video in my series that is the top 14 of 2014. So today's video is going to be the top 14 books that I have read this year that were published in 2014. So these are basically the actual top 14 of 2014. And I'm also going to be doing kind of a part 2 to this video, which is going to be just the top 14 books that I read in 2014, excluding the ones that were published this year. I hope that made sense. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So the first book I wanted to talk about is Hollow City by Ransom Riggs. This is the second book in the Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children series, and I don't even know when this one came out, but I know it came out this year. It's a creepy kind of paranormal series, and what I really like about it is the fact that the author goes and he finds these like old pictures just because he really likes finding them, and then he kind of weaves them into the story, which is just super unique. It's really awesome, and this book was so fantastic. It reminded me why I loved Miss Peregrine's, because it was just so good. The characters are so interesting. It's just really a fantastic series. You just need to jump into it and you will not regret it. The next book is We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. There are a lot of people who don't like this book, but I really, really loved it. The twist at the end just blew me away. I kind of was spoiled for it, but I still literally bawled my eyes out. I couldn't even handle it. It's kind of boring through the middle, but if you get past that, then you realize, like, it just makes it all worth it in the end. It's such a good contemporary. Just go right into it. You don't need to know anything. It's awesome. Next is Fire and Flood by Victoria Scott. This is the first book in a trilogy. I think it's a dystopian trilogy, and it's basically a mix of The Hunger Games and Pokemon, which is absolutely awesome. I really enjoyed this book. They just had a cover change for it because the second book is coming out next year, and I don't really like the new covers, to be honest, but what are you gonna do? Yeah, this book was really fun. The only thing I didn't really like about it was there's some elements to it that are really disturbing, but it's really good other than that. And if you've read this book, you know what I'm talking about. It's just really sad, and I don't really like reading about that. I don't know. I don't know. The next book is The One by Kiera Cass. This was supposed to be the conclusion to the Selection series, but then Kiera Cass announced that she's releasing 2 more books, so they are going to be coming out next year. Well, the one is. Not the one, but like it's called The Heir, but you know what I mean. You knew what I meant. But anyways, so this series is basically The Bachelorette, but all these girls are trying to win the heart of a prince, and it's super awesome. It's not like a literary gem, it's just really enjoyable, and they're just cute, and I just really enjoy them. And I love the cover of this book. I mentioned this in my top 14 covers of 2014 video, which was the first to the series. I'll link that down below, but it's just so good. It's so cute. Next is Ignite Me by Tahara Mafi. This is the conclusion to the Shatter Me trilogy, and I marathoned this trilogy this year, and I just absolutely loved it. This was my favorite book out of all of them. It was so good. It's really an interesting concept, and this book was really sad, but it was also just so amazing. I really just love this trilogy. Next is Rebel Belle by Rachel Hawkins. So this book was getting a lot of hype when it first came out. It came out around April, and just everyone was reading it. Everyone loved it. And it's really a great book. It's basically about this girly girl, kind of like Southern Belle, who becomes a paladin and kind of has to protect this guy that she really, really hates. It's just super fun. It's really witty, and I just really enjoyed it. And it definitely makes me want to read more of Rachel Hawkins in the future. And there's also going to be the sequel to this book coming out next year, so I'm really excited for that. This next book is one of my all-time favorites, and that is Dorothy Must Die by Danielle Page. I just loved this book. I'm so excited for the next one. It's just such an interesting concept. Basically, this girl, she gets taken away to Oz, but it is not the Oz that everyone is familiar with. This Oz has been completely like destroyed. It's completely desolate, and that is because Dorothy came back, but she's now this like crazy tyrannical leader, and it's this girl's duty to try and kill Dorothy. It's absolutely crazy. It's creepy but also super fun. It's so interesting and just fantastic. I definitely recommend this. Next is What I Thought Was True by Huntley Fitzpatrick. I just really enjoyed this book. It's basically just kind of your wholesome, typical contemporary, but there are really awesome characters in here. You get kind of a family aspect to it along with the romance aspect. It was just really enjoyable, and I would definitely recommend it to anyone looking for a good new contemporary. Next is 4 by Veronica Roth. So this is a series of 4 stories following 4 before kind of the events of Divergent. There is one that is like just at the beginning of Divergent, but all the rest are before that. And I really enjoyed this. It was really interesting to get to kind of see into the mind of 4 more so. You do get his perspective in Allegiant, but I really liked to be able to see him before Triss and how his life, like more of how his life was before that. So I really enjoyed this. And if you like the Divergent series, I definitely would recommend picking this up because you really do get to see more into his character and kind of who he is, and you get to understand more of his actions and everything. Next is Isla and the Happily Ever After by Stephanie Perkins, the conclusion to the Anna and the French Kiss kind of companion novel trilogy thing. So this one follows Isla and Josh is one of the characters from Anna and the French Kiss, and some of it takes place in New York, some of it takes place in France. It's really just a cutesy story, just what you would expect out of Stephanie Perkins. This one is pretty angsty, but it was still super enjoyable, and I just love the writing, love the characters that she creates. I just love her. She can do no wrong. Next is Prisoner of Night and Fog by Anne Blankman. I just absolutely adored this book. I thought it was so fantastic. The next one in this trilogy is coming out next year, and I literally cannot wait. It was so good. So basically this series follows Hitler's niece, but she's not biologically his niece, but they're like really close family friends, and she ends up falling in love with a Jewish reporter and kind of finding out what is wrong with her uncle and how his regime is like absolutely awful. It's super interesting. It's a very different perspective of World War II historical fiction. I really enjoyed it. Next is Since You've Been Gone by Morgan Matson. So this was one of the first books I read after kind of discovering booktube, and I really loved this one. It's a contemporary about a girl whose best friend goes kind of missing for the summer. She has no idea where she is, but she has sent her this bucket list, which is on the back of the book, and she is trying to complete all these things on the bucket list so then she will be able to hopefully find her best friend. It's a very interesting contemporary, pretty different. It's not really so much about friendship as much as it is about the main character kind of finding herself and learning to be independent. It's very interesting, super well written. I just love Morgan Matson. She is so good. I absolutely love it. And this book, just like her other ones, this one has like, here, I need to find an example. Well, there's a crappy example. This one has like little playlists in it because she goes running a lot, and it's just so interesting. I definitely recommend listening to the songs while you read the book because it just really adds to it. It's just so good. Next is this hunk of a book that everyone has been waiting for forever, and that is City of Heavenly Fire by Cassandra Clare. I read this book in September and I did really enjoy it. I do have a few issues with it, but that didn't really take away from the book too much. I did really love it. It's not my favorite out of the whole series, but it is pretty close. I just thought it was a little bit anticlimactic at times, but other than that, it was pretty action-packed for the most part, and you really got to see some new characters, more into them rather than just kind of the typical Clary and Jace, which I really enjoyed that. It's huge. It's literally massive, but nonetheless, it was a very good read. And finally, and the one I've read most recently, I have In the Afterlife by Alexandra Bracken, which is the conclusion to the Darkest Minds trilogy. I just absolutely loved this trilogy. This book was so good. It was so sad, but it was so happy. It literally just takes your heart and it crushes it and it just stomps on it and but it's so fantastic. I definitely recommend this trilogy. This one was just as good as the first two. Oh, it's so good. So that was all for my favorite books that I have read that were published in 2014. Let me know what some of your favorites that were published in 2014 are. And yeah, I'll see you tomorrow for the next video in this series. Bye!